Hi, my name's Dee and welcome to Sunchild Tarot. Now, this is going to be your full moon Gods at Play reading for the sign that is down in the title. It's a bulk introduction as ever. There will be a timestamp down below, but stick with it this time, at least the first time, because there's some good information I've pulled together, I believe. I've had some real fun researching this and working everything out. So, timestamp because, or first time because, it's a good idea to watch at least 3 of these. So your sun sign, your moon sign and your rising sign. My personal favourite would be your rising sign. You know, if you don't get to watch any of the others, watch your rising sign. There's a link down below for a birth chart if you don't know what that is. It takes you to AstroSeek. If you do know a little bit about astrology, you can choose what house system you want and all that sort of thing. So, being a general reading, of course, it's not aimed at any one person specifically. So it's a sort of, it either is for you or it isn't. It's not really a reading where you can ask a question beforehand, although you could if you want to. I don't know how effective that would be. It's a look at the energies that are interplaying. It's the Gods at Play readings, by their very nature, are dramatic, wonderfully dramatic. So take it all with a pinch of salt. Remember, it's the shape of the images rather than the literal words that are important here. So let's get on to this new moon. So 9 degrees Aries. This is the harvest moon, which is the first full moon after fall equinox. Now, the astrologer Kelly Rosano is saying it's a great reset. It's a great time to make a fresh start, to reinvent yourself, to keep moving if you have a strategy. And if you don't have the strategy, work on the strategy. You know, don't just move without a strategy. But if you can keep moving, do keep moving. Now, with it being 9 degrees Aries, I'm going to be referring to all my written notes and some notes on the computer here. This point has a history this year. So, back on the 11th of July this year, Chiron stationed retrograde at this point to conjunct 3 days later on the 14th with Mars. So this point has been activated already with that warrior fire energy of Mars, but tamed a little. Tamed is probably the wrong word, but in the act of receiving instruction. Now, Chiron, a lot of people remember that he's the wounded healer, that he has the wound that will not heal. But I'm not being led to that woundedness with this point. What I'm being led to is the fact that Chiron was a teacher of heroes. Chiron trained Hercules, among other characters, and I've suddenly forgot all of the other characters. It's just fallen out the back of my brain. But Chiron was a teacher. And going back to the astrology, because I'll get back to the symbolism of Chiron in a moment. So Mars conjuncted with Chiron on the 14th. Now, Mars had just conjuncted 3 days before? No, as Chiron stationed retrograde on the 11th here at 9 degrees, the moon conjuncted Mars. Now, the moon had been a busy boy. From the 5th of July, he had been conjuncting with Jupiter and Pluto, then on the 6th, Saturn, and he delivered all of that information to Mars on the 6th via the means of a sextile, you know, which is it's a modern aspect. It's like a little vaguely positive download, I would suppose. Then the moon conjuncted with Neptune on the 10th and took all that ocean energy straight to Mars on the 11th, which Mars then took, you know, obviously quite possibly reeling and, you know, having that comic moment of and then it conjuncted with Chiron. So Chiron was there to help Mars make sense of everything that the moon had just gone at him. And now the moon has returned. I mean, obviously it returns every month, but now the moon has really returned in the terms of this harvest moon, full moon. So I'm really seeing that there has been a period where we have been able to make sense maybe of wounds, or make sense of our path forward, and things that you started around the middle of July, so 11th, 14th, all that sort of area onwards, can be coming to a culmination of sorts with this full moon. Now, that's just a culmination, not the culmination. So it's not like a final conclusion. It's you're going to be reaching towards a high point, a potentially healing high point, but as a result of everything that you have learned and things that you set into motion back in July. Now, the symbols back this up somewhat. Let me get through to this. Here we go. Now, the Chandra symbol is the roots of a tree entwined around the statue of a nude woman. So the explanation of this sounds a bit weird, but just think about the weird time we have gone through with 2020, with all the lockdown restrictions, with the new restrictions that we've had to introduce for ourselves to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe, the financial restrictions that have no doubt come in at the same time. And these restrictions are definitely being highlighted now by the current Mars square Saturn, or Mars Saturn square is what I was going to say, which goes to show again that Mars trying to demonstrate everything he'd learned under the tutelage of Chiron. It's we have got to find a way forward, and Saturn's going, if you find a way forward, you do it sensibly, within the limits. You do it within a defined pathway. You do it with strategy. Another thing Kelly Rosano said in her video was that squares are like a step up. You can use them, and I think Rick Levine has talked about how you can resolve issues in a square creatively, using creativity, but that square creates tension in the first place, so it's highlighting issues that are already there. So going back to this roots of a tree entwined around the statue, so it says bondage and freedom sometimes go hand in hand. The bondage is being true to pattern, predictable, here's Saturn, caught in habits and tendencies perpetually left to grow like weeds. The freedom is that as you meet yourself starkly in the midst of these old, tired patterns of behaviour, you come into touch with a quickening flame of self-recreation, stimulated and forced by being at the mercy of the relentless powers. Now, if that doesn't sum up what is also going on in the astrology around this full moon with that Mars-Saturn square, I don't know what does. You cannot... the heavens are most definitely giving us a huge message here. Anyway, I'll continue with this. The impulse to make yourself over is fervently strong, courageous, ready and willing. The old stuff dies hard. You are therefore engaged in a pitched battle of a protracted kind between retrogressive and progressive ideals, impulses and desires. Both sides are so impassioned and sharply intent that this could become a knockdown, drag-out battle of wills. Now, if that doesn't reflect the politics as well as our own internal struggle at the moment, I don't know what does. Where was I? The atavistic backward-leaning will feel immune to change. The visionary forward-thrusting will feel moved by evolutionary forces to never give up. Eventually, the future prevails over the past, but not before scars and multiple traumas mark the spot of fighting for your life against an implacable inward enemy who knows it will lose and fights all the harder accordingly. I hadn't read that right through to the end. That doesn't bode well for the election, does it? So, moving on. Another thing is the Omega symbol. Again, I'm reading Aries 10 because this full moon is at 9 degrees and 8 minutes of Aries, therefore it's in the 10th degree. So in many different places, a man keeps seeing the same number. It's talking about interacting and being inspired. Now there will have been over this period, I mean, there is over any period, but over this period especially, certainly under the tutelage of Chiron, there will have been certain things which will have appeared again and again and again. And with all the circumstances that we've had recently, we're pretty much forced to look at it. Just as Saturn is now stationing direct, turning to face Mars as it goes in that square to it, and Saturn is like this, look here, this, those things that you cannot resist, those things that you cannot ignore. And when I say you can't resist, I don't mean like chocolates, I mean like a wall. You cannot resist a wall if you run into it, you know. This so it's definitely highlighting those limitations that we're going to face, and how we are going to be able to change ourselves to overcome those limitations. Now, presiding over this degree is the angel Eladia, who the phrase I have here is looks can kill, protection from the evil eye and divine grace. But so I investigated Eladia a little further, and as a guardian angel, where she is, I think, is it the first half of the second decan of second half of the second decan of Taurus, but she also presides over 9 degrees Aries, 21 degrees Gemini, and my database isn't built up any further than that. There will be another 3 points that she presides over. Now, Eladia symbolises tolerance and clarity of mind, giving you inspiration to succeed in your endeavours, as well as helping in restoring your morale. He also brings you healing and forgiveness for your faults. What is really interesting is that of the charisms he rules over, it's interpretation. It's how to interact and how to perceive the world around you. Now, you can ask Eladia to bring you divine grace so that your faults may be forgiven, but that's also a process of, to do that, you need to have recognised your faults in the first place, and then to have them forgiven, you also have to make sure that you are not making the same faults again and again and again and again. So there's that whole rebirth element going on once more. So here I've got Guardian Angel Eladia provides tolerance, mental clarity, forgiveness, healing of illnesses, recognition of your mistakes. So Eladia will help you recognize where the mistakes, and that's a good thing, because if you think this Mars square Saturn, it's Mars retrograde, we are reviewing what we have already set into motion, and then as Mars goes direct again, we get to do it again, but properly. Eladia offers a sense of freedom from your past and helps instill a sense of morality. I'll just leave that one there because that's too much of a hot topic there. But within the Goetia, by day, let me see. This degree is ruled by Baal by day and Phoenix by night. Now, Phoenix is depicted as a phoenix. So again, we've got that symbol of rebirth, and he's a great Marquis of Hell, has 20 legions of demons under his command, but he teaches all wonderful sciences and is an excellent poet and tends to be very obedient to those who summon him. Now, he does hope to return to heaven after 1200 years, but it is noted that he is deceived in this hope, and it's definitely been 1200 years since Solomon helped conjure him to help build his temple. So if the full moon is happening in the night where you are, there is that added oomph of rebirth from that phoenix energy. Now, Baal or Baal is more of a shapeshifter and warrior god. He's also incredibly, well, kingly. Basically, he's one of the 9 kings of Goetia, and he presides over solstices, fire festivals, gives aid in astral projection, shapeshifting within dreams, and is also helps with the reconciliation of friends, which might be a really useful tool. And that could be a step on your using that square to climb up, because Tempers Afraid this year, understandably, if there's anyone that you need to make up with, and the full moon is in the day where you are. I mean, I remember last week there was some astrological conjunction or other, well, aspect or other, that was also helping with this whole reconciliation idea. So that energy is obviously still with us by Baal being empowered by the full moon. Now, that's probably technically not the right way to say it, but you know, Baal's mastery of this degree empowering the full moon, put it that way. You know, so all in all, this promises to be a really good full moon if you take advantage of it. So yeah, do your full moon ceremony, but also be in touch with people. Be in touch with all the voices inside your head, and be in touch with some of the voices outside of your head, like your friends, your family, anybody that you maybe need to smooth things over with, and anybody that will help you move forward in things that you have already set into motion, and hopefully set them into motion using your strategy that is so heavily advised by Saturn. And you set it into motion before Mars turned retrograde. Now's not a good time to start new things. If you haven't got a new thing that you have started, then plan, strategize. You can move forward once you have your plan and your strategy. Now, you're going to hear a lot more of this sort of stuff from me. I want to give a very quick plug to the Astrology Hub and the course that they are running with famed astrologer Rick Levine. That starts next Sunday, 4th of October. I will be doing that course as well. So you know how I keep saying, no, I'm not an astrologer? Well, hopefully by the end of it, I'll be that one step closer to being one. I mean, okay, it's still going to take me a decade to get there, but I get to study under Rick Levine. How cool is that? And so can you. So if you go over to the Astrology Hub website, astrologyhub.org, just Google Astrology Hub, and then whatever that web address is /foundation, and you will find that course. It works out $200 and odd with tax, really odd, like $4.50 or something, $4.88 I think I paid. So yeah, if you're into all this stuff, and hey, you've listened to me drone on for what, 17 minutes now, I better get on with the reading in a moment. But you've listened to me waffle on for all of that. So come and join. It should be fun. Now, there's also a link down below for my Facebook page for this channel. I'd be remiss if I didn't give that a plug. There is an inbox on that Facebook page. So if you want to contact me for a personal reading, feel free. That's one of the ways to do it. You can DM me on Twitter as well. I have a Linktree link down there for all the different social media bits and bats. And I have the time now October is, yes, I've no idea what month it is. I mean, as Rick Levine said, we are on the 175th of March. October, I have a lot more free time. I hope to be generating a lot more videos for you. I've just seen my video go really weird there, so I think I will stop talking now and bring up the cards. Cheers. And well done, Aries Sun, if you've managed to make your way through my entire introduction. Now here's the payoff. And welcome Aries Rising and Aries Moon, if you've just joined us after the timestamp. Now, if you are Aries Rising, this is all happening in your first house. And even as a sun sign, you can look at it as your first house of your sun, that very much sort of what you are presenting to the world. And the full moon in your first house represents a sensation of, hey, what about me? You know, where you're looking for a little bit of attention, where that you may feel that all the attention has been directed to another. So it's time for ways for you to see how and where you do actually count. Now, this is reflected in the cards, and I immediately see the influence of Eladia here with Skadi facing off against Ereshkigal. Now, this top row, as I may have said before, if you've watched these before, this represents masks being worn by the Archons to try and suppress us, to try and keep us away from our divine purpose, to try to keep us vibrating in fear and misery and negative sort of whereas here, I'm taking a true pagan view of the gods, where the gods are either acting to lift us up, or don't really care because they're busy doing what the pagan gods do, you know, so they're not actively trying to suppress you, and it's in their interest for your vibration to rise. So you can say, why would they help me? Because it's in their interest that the vibration of the planet rises. End of story. So that takes it bit by bit by bit, and that's why the gods play chess. I didn't expect to go on that angle. Right. Skadi, in the form of an Archontic mask, versus Ereshkigal. Now, Ereshkigal was a judge of the dead, and I do remember I watched the Astrology Hub with Anne Ortley this morning, and one of the things that came out of it for this week is Marie Kondo Your Life. So what I'm feeling here is it is time for you to make a mess in order for you to tidy it up again. And I mean that in a sort of not create chaos or create a confrontation or anything like that, but to have a good route around and empty all your drawers and empty all your cupboards and empty all your plans and go, that I will keep, that I'll get rid of, that I'll keep, that I'll get rid of. Ereshkigal is the judge of what is dead. So you can say that she's weighing the souls, but you are doing that Marie Kondo thing. Does this give me joy or am I throwing it out? But there was another level to Ereshkigal that I noticed. It's saying don't give in to emotional blackmail. Now, what was I saying about the energy of Eladia? That was this energy of not atonement, of correcting mistakes, faults, that sort of thing. Rewind and have a look, whatever it was that I said. But I feel here it's almost like there is someone pointing out a fault and saying that you need to make up for it. No, you don't. You don't have to make up for it. You simply have to change. And you're probably well aware of this anyway, which is where Cernunnos comes in. If you watch the shuffle video, so that'll be for Aries Sun, you'll notice that the minute I drew Hades, Cernunnos wanted to come out. I carried on shuffling and then Cernunnos came out there and then. You are... Cernunnos is a prime expression of masculine energy, but it's also the embodiment of like attracts like. as in the form of sympathetic magic. You want to hunt a stag, you dress up as a stag and dance like the stag, and that will bring the stag to you. So you are being called upon here, or being given the skills maybe, to shapeshift. And to shapeshift either into your authentic self or your new self, that new thing that you've already got going on, that you've probably had obstacle after obstacle after obstacle this year because, hey, 2020. But you can shapeshift into your destiny. But what you need is to put certain things aside. And that may well, if your sense of, hey, what about me, is not recognized by people that you would expect it to be recognized by, then maybe now is no longer the time to, go along to get along. Now is no longer the time to keep so quiet about it. It's almost like, I can't change, everything will end. I have to, I'm being convinced to expand what has already been there. But we've got death here threatening you and saying all this treasure that you'll be able to get hold of. But Zeus, certainly as an archontic mask, was a very fickle god. Yes, he presides over divine expansion, but we're hemmed in by Saturn at the minute. That expansion will only go too far. And it's, as you think about the expansion of the waistline to an old pair of trousers, they get tighter and tighter and tighter, and eventually something pops. And that's not always the trousers that pop. You could end up injuring yourself. And there is that, be aware of your health and your injuries here. But what Hestia here is telling me is go for what lights your passion. Go for what lights your fire. Shapeshift into the you that you see yourself being the other side of Christmas. If you buy into the, coming into the age of Aquarius stuff, which, as you can tell, I'm a little sarcastic about. If you buy into that, then imagine the person that you want to be in that situation and become that person. And so it's not a matter of atoning and making things right with other people according to other people's demands. It's simply a matter of changing, and just those faults that I had, not doing that anymore. Those mistakes that I made, I'm not repeating them. And that's enough. That's more than enough. If anything, with Sekhmet here, I'm getting the impression that less is more. It's a matter of getting rid of things. Yeah, because there's a wonderful promise being shown to you by going along with the group. There's fortune being shown to you, but now I see. But it's going to feel hollow. It's, you get to that point of trying to preserve things as well as you are needing to preserve them. Now, how can I put that? You're trying to preserve things. Oh, let's try and get this. You are not the droid I'm looking for. This always puts the camera back in focus. You can take on a burden to try and maintain the status quo. That's what I'm trying to say. And being given a big dream about how it's going to be better, and the group is coming together, and there is fortune in this for you. But it's like, yeah, really? But sugar, I'm committed by the end of this if you are not careful. Now, the more, this is a really interesting, this is supposed to be the positive. And we've got 3 of Swords, 7 of Swords in the Tower. Good start. But what I'm seeing here is that you are to shapeshift away from those things that have been causing you pain, going to the better future path, job, social circle, whatever, habit, topic of study. Because it's only by that shapeshifting that you have the appropriate strategy. I nearly said tragedy there. You have the appropriate strategy to get to where your destiny needs to be. And yes, things can fall away, but that's fine. It gives you the strength to focus on what is important, and you are able to recognize those things that have value and don't have value. And bear in mind, for full moon in your first house, Aries, one thing that you need to recognize has value is you. Now, two angels jumped out of the Oracle of Heaven and Hell, and we have Vualia with prosperity and Achaya with patience. Well, the patience implies this is a slow process. Well, hey ho, like I said, we're on March 175th, you know, so we know it's a slow process. But I would just beware of any commitment that you make to set something right in somebody else's eyes, because you don't need to do that. And to quote Admiral Akbar, it's a trap. I often say that on these readings. So there is a real boost of energy coming for you here, Aries, but you have to be willing. You have to be willing to change, and you're not necessarily going to see where you're going with it, even though you have this vision in your mind of I'm heading to become this, but the this that you've got, the details aren't there. And that's fine, because they don't need to be. You know that I'm going this way, and I know it's flavour, and I know it's smell, I know it's taste. I just don't know what it looks like. Fine. Absolutely fine. But do not buy into other people's BS. You know, yeah, if you've made mistakes, oh well, so what? Move on. If you've either learned from them or you will repeat them. Hopefully it's the former. But remember, basically, it's make a mess for you to tidy up your own life. All right, well, that's a cheerful reading. If it means anything to you, Aries, comment down below. In the meantime, your monthlies will be out soon. They're not going to be out at the start of the month, not with me doing these full moons first, but they'll be soon, so stay tuned. Now, go watch your moon and your rising, Aries sun. Cheers.